uprising and prisoners a lot. That theme in many of the films I made, both in documentary and in fiction. In the film, you mentioned 3,000 Nights, that was a main theme. I'd like to show, if you like,
please.
Maybe the clip of a film I made on Palestinian children called Children of Shatila.
Okay.
So that's the second clip.
الزراعة فضاء طبيب يا عامل شو بتحب تصير بالمستقبل؟ مهندس
لأن بعض ركضنا شفنا الناس
I can't imagine you while making this footage because it's a reality that connects from generation to generation. She's saying 52 years. There are children now, maybe they are adults here, and now they are still dealing with same problems, and yes, it's sort of yearning, and it always continues.
Yes, I feel very lucky to be able to film this footage on the border, because those were really historical moments, but how to tell it in a cinema, you know, how to capture those moments, because it's a kind of safeguarding memory, you know, and writing history, because it's like living in the moment, you know. The camera is also making history in a way, because these images, if they weren't documented, they would not be remembered in the same way. And also how to tell a story within a historical moment. And it was so emotional for me and for the camera. People, we were all crying on the border, and the barbed wire, all that emotion of the land of their forefathers, Palestine, touching the soil, you know, so much hope. But how, you know, to capture that emotion, the poetry, I think too, film is such a poetic and powerful form of expression, or means of expression. I feel that's the challenge, you know, always in my films, to search for that poetry, even in the suffering and the difficult moments, because all my films have been shot in war or invasions or something, but how to tell a story, you know, I think that's the real challenge.
So it was the first documentary, and then how did it change? I mean, it was in the Lebanon, you said you started with the Lebanon invasion, and then?
Yes, this is a documentary I made like 4 or 5 before this one. This one's part of a trilogy of films I made about children. The first one I made in my hometown in Nablus, in the West Bank. I'm from Nablus in Palestine, being invaded in 2006. But this time I learned how to make a film. This is called 33 Days, because the war on Lebanon took 33 days in 2006. We need more sound, I think, volume.
Bu ışıkları da aslında klip oynatırken
Focuses on 4 people.
شفت الصاروخ شفته وانا طلعت لسواني هيك مرقوا لانه اصبت بعجز انه شو بعمل.
وين الدور؟ بلشت هون الصنايع من ثاني يوم الحرب. ثاني يوم كان في حوالي 600 بني ادم.
Gave me goosebumps because I'm thinking about what's going on in Gaza now.
yes.
But this is 2006 in Lebanon. Like I said, I learned after Itam and war because I was behind the camera in this film shooting around my house. You know, this is like not far from where I live, and I focused on just 4 people.
לאחר שבית המשפט הרשיע את הנאשם בסיוע לפיגוע טרור.
You were saying that in fiction you can make a film and go away, but not in Palestine. The actress in the film, the main actress who had the child in prison, she was arrested twice these past 2 months, and by the Israeli police because of a Facebook kind of post supporting you know, people in Gaza, and she was arrested and imprisoned. And and she was telling me how she was reliving the film inside the prison. It became a reality. So the reality and fiction are very, there's no boundary. And even many of my actors and crew have been in prison at one time or another, so they were able to bring this experience to the acting. And I shot the film inside a real prison, empty prison, luckily. And that, I think, gave a lot of power also, or kind of credibility to the film. Because and we all felt we were making something real, not just a story that you know, kind of imaginative. You know, it's a real story, and that's the responsibility and the difficulty. Because when you're working with such a sensitive subject, you really have to be very careful how to tell these stories, because all of the stories and all the characters in the film are based on real characters, real stories, real events. And I was very careful to be true to the events. And you mentioned before something about the situation is so dramatic, you have to be careful not to. So yes, because our situation is so dramatic, you have to be more sober, you know, and not show everything because it's too shocking, you know. You have to really be sensitive. And I think that's where also the poetry and the cinema, and you can do a lot with fiction, and I tried to do that. Even though I'm true to my documentary roots and my, you know, wanting to be true, but in fiction you can also work on other levels, and I tried to show that through moments like the bird, you saw the kind of delicate moments, the shadows on the walls, all these moments. I think they tell you a lot, but in an indirect way, in a poetic. It works on other levels. You know, I want to testify and be a witness and use my art to tell the stories of my people. But you can tell them in different ways. You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, so painful in the way you present it. I think the main thing is to show the humanity and the hope. Always there has to be. I feel that's very important, to show hope, to show beauty, to show, you know, the contrast too. You know, when you show both, it's very powerful. But I would love to make films, you know, that aren't with a war in the background or an invasion. And I remember when 3000 Nights came out, there was a beautiful film too that came out at the same time called Room. I don't know if any of you saw it. It's a Canadian film. We have filmmakers, talented filmmakers, and many stories to tell. And we are beginning to build some institutions, but with very minimal means. I think this is a good time really to think about how to collaborate and maybe do co-productions with Turkey and other countries. I mean, some of our films we co-produced with, my film was co-produced with France, but I think why not together with Turkey, other countries that are similar and have the means, because you have a very strong interest in our films here. Okay. But you have to be very truthful, I think, and very respectful of the people you're filming, and choose the right people who are going to, I think, tell the story and create a relationship of trust. And it develops naturally for me, you know, but be very close. I'm very close to the people I film. I respect them. I actually love them, you know. That's why I don't, most of the people I shoot, I make films about the people I like, because, you know, very strong and human stories. Before Gaza happened, I was thinking of going back to history even, to tell also something historical film. So I think it's important to try to make films that are powerful on a human level, but also help you understand why, not just what people are living through, but why also the roots of the conflict also, but through human stories. So there are so many stories to tell, but of course I can't ignore what's going on. I feel that it's my duty really to make more films, because there are not enough films. And I think also the filmmakers inside Gaza, inside Palestine, should be given a chance, support, to tell their stories, and they're trying, and they're being killed, you know, as they testify. But we need to support that and those voices and collaborate again, and try to give the chance for these stories to be shown around the world, because this is important, I think, to reach people. And I think we're winning, in a way, the battle of the image and the narrative. And we're not going to allow Hollywood and other, they will try and they will make films, believe me. Very soon you'll be seeing films showing something distorted and lies. But that's why we need to be there to counter this, to tell our own stories, because there's a huge struggle now on the image and the narrative and who tells the story. But we're aware of that, and this is our role.
Do you think that your films has made a difference so far?
Thank you. Yes, I think cinema can make a difference, because it's a mass kind of a cinema films. They reach millions of people. It's not kind of niche, you know, like some, you know, this is a popular kind of medium, and that it touches emotionally, you know, not to the hearts and minds, and creates, I think, understanding. It helps change perceptions, and also inspires people. Films can inspire people to take action. And I noticed that in some of my own films when I screen them. Lots of people tell me that how much they were affected, and afterwards, you know, they told me that the films they saw inspired them to go visit. For example, want to visit the refugee camps. An artist in Japan told me a beautiful story that when he saw Children of Shatila, he immediately, as a jazz musician, he felt those children had so much talent. He collected the instruments, the musical instruments in Tokyo, and he sent them the Palestinians in the camps for the children to use, you know. And that's one story, you know, but there's so many other stories like that. Even a friend of mine had her wedding and she decided rather than to distribute like, you know, presents, she distributed one of my films. So yeah, I mean, films can make a difference. They're not going to change the world, but they're a very strong and powerful you know, means of expression. And I think we should not underestimate that. And if anything, we should make more films. And I think we should believe in the power of the image, because it's, again, it tells the stories in a human way, but there's not enough of that.
Can you say something for more hope in Gaza?
It's very difficult for me to say something, because I feel what they're doing is like, there was suffering, but still not losing their humanity, not using the, you know, with so much dignity, so much courage. I think what, if anything, we can learn, people can learn from that, that courage, you know, that, you know, sacrifice, that, and knowing that what they're doing has changed people around the world, and it's powerful. I think, I hope their suffering, and I know their suffering will not be in vain, you know. This is, and I only can hope that this will end soon, and there's this huge responsibility for us as artists, as people of conscience, to work together for a free Palestine, so that their suffering will not be in vain. I think there are some actors, like you said, who are very courageous in Hollywood, like Susan Sarandon and others who were courageous and took a stand. And there's more and more, you know, even in the music world, in the sports, influencers, they're coming out and speaking out, you know, for Palestine, because this is the moment. Silence is not a solution. Actually, it's a kind of it's being, if you're silent, you're part of the crime, you know. It's not, there's no such thing as being like on the fence. You have to take a position. And this is genocide, what's going on in Palestine, so there's no choice. You really, as an artist, I think you need to take a position. Some people, even in Hollywood, they're beginning to speak out, knowing that they will pay the price. But I think when there's more and more people that speak out, that would encourage others to speak out. In the end, I think that the truth will prevail. You know, there's no way that injustice can win, and that's, I think that's our responsibility altogether. Because what's happening in Palestine could happen somewhere else. This is, and this is the first time that the media, it's like covering what's going on and live. We never saw genocide being filmed and live before, so there's no one can say they did not know, like they did in other situations, similar situations. So this is there's no excuse for anyone not to take a position, not to take action, not to speak out. And, this is very important. I actually live in Beirut. Yes, I mean, I've had many attempts to block my films, but they never succeeded, because when they try to censor, it creates a reaction. So I've been, I don't know if I've been lucky, but it's good, because it creates a reaction, and people, they write in the newspapers, and then it gives more publicity, actually, to the film. In terms of threats, I mean, I've been under fire, yeah, for sure. I mean, filming in Palestine, it's normal, you know, to be, most of my colleagues have been arrested or shot or even killed. You know, I don't feel it's important even to say, but I was once targeted but luckily, you know, I was not injured. But now it's more dangerous than before. As I said, the actress in my film was arrested, and this is unheard of. She's a world actress. She's a very well-known actress now. After we made the film together. She's become world famous, and they're trying to punish, make an example of people so that they will be intimidated. And especially women, it's surprising. They're coming after like singers, actors, you know, it's common. So this is very recent. This has become more and more dangerous. So I do expect, but I think like having been through wars and believing in what I'm doing, I'm willing to take the risk, and we all are, because we have to speak out. If you're talking about the different generations of filmmakers, there is, I think, a continuity. I belong to maybe the founding members of Palestinian cinema, but now there's so many young filmmakers making films, and I think we learn from each other. They learn from us, we learn from them too. You know, it's like important to keep learning and trying to do new things. And finding new creative ways of telling our stories, and not to be repeating, whether in the cinematic style or even in the stories. That's why I like to work with children. They're so fresh and spontaneous and unexpected. You know, I love that dimension. But I think it's important to keep working cinematically, because we have a lot of stories to tell, but we just have to be careful about how, you know, what kind of tools, the cinema language we use to tell our stories. Yes, I mean, art is part of the resistance, that's for sure. I don't have a recipe, but I think when you're close to your people and you believe in, what you're trying to say, that's resistance. In our case, they're trying to erase the Palestinians. It's a genocide, you know, so telling our stories is a form of resistance for sure. And we'll never give up, so we'll always be resisting. And there are many ways to resist: civil resistance, art resistance, women, children, old men. Storytelling is resistance. And this is a way of survival and continuity for the Palestinians. And we need to preserve that, preserve our memory, continue existing and believing in our cause. And this is, I don't know if I have advice, you know, because every culture has their own struggles. But not becoming a tyrant or not oppressing someone else. So it's a universal. This is universal values of humanity that we need to uphold as filmmakers. I mean, if you're a filmmaker, you can make a film. If you're a writer, you can write. If you're not an artist, you can do a lot. By the way, you can boycott, really, products made in Israel or made by companies that support Israel. And this is a very, I think, powerful, and it hasn't been used enough. But if we boycott certain products, I think you can know which products I'm talking about if you search. These are the ones that sustain the occupation and the oppression of people around the world. They're the same. They're the ones that bring the governments that are against us, you know. They're the same companies that make the weapons, that make the chocolates, that make the, you know, these are the same. So as citizens of the world, we need to boycott, know which ones we're talking about and boycott them. We can share information also about what's going on.
Thank you so much for being here.